He laughed behind my back while I packed my childhood into cardboard boxes. My dad, the same man who once called me his whole world. All it took was one woman and one dinner for everything to change. He cut me off, erased every trace of my mother, and let his new wife decide where I belonged outside. I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I just walked away and stayed silent. But silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. Because while they played house and built their perfect little brand, they forgot the one thing that still connected us, and by the time they realized what I still had, it was too late. I didn't destroy them. They did that themselves. All I did was listen to what they said, to what they didn't say, and to the part of me that finally stopped waiting to be chosen. This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about letting people show you who they really are, and believing them the first time. I still remember the way the table was set that night. My dad had this thing about presentation cloth napkins, candles, wine glasses, even if we weren't drinking. He said it made a house feel like home. Back then, I believed him. It was the first time I'd been invited over since he remarried, just 2 months after the wedding. I hadn't even really wrapped my head around it. One minute it was just me and him, two people trying to figure life out after my mum passed. And then suddenly, there was Stephanie, a woman he met at a real estate seminar who apparently understood him better than anyone ever had, in record time. I walked in with a bottle of red, cheap but thoughtful, and a nervous smile. Stephanie opened the door. She didn't smile back. "Oh, you're early," she said, looking me up and down. "I guess that's fine." I told myself maybe she was just stressed. First family dinner and all. My dad came out from the kitchen, gave me a hug, but it felt different, like someone watching the time. Dinner was dry chicken and awkward conversation. Stephanie talked a lot about her skincare brand, her yoga instructor, how difficult it was adjusting to someone else's child. She didn't say my name once I tried. I really did. I asked about their honeymoon. I complimented the food. I even laughed when she called herself type A with a little sprinkle of alpha. But every answer she gave felt rehearsed, like she was more interested in showing off than connecting than it happened. She mentioned selling the lake house, my mom's lake house, the one where I learned to swim, where we used to go every summer, just me and Dad after Mom died. I froze. "What do you mean you're selling the lake house?" I asked. Stephanie smiled like it was nothing. "It just doesn't suit our lifestyle. It's outdated, and frankly, it's more your dad's past than our future." I looked at my dad, waiting for him to say something, anything. He didn't. He just took a sip of wine and said, "We made the decision together. It's time to move on." I couldn't believe it. Move on from what? From Mom, from us. Stephanie scoffed. "Don't be dramatic." That was it. Something snapped in me. "I'm not being dramatic. I'm being honest. That house was part of our family. You didn't even ask me. You didn't even consider how I'd feel." My dad finally looked at me, but his face wasn't apologetic. It was tired, cold, even. "You don't live there. You don't pay for it. You weren't consulted because you didn't need to be." My voice cracked. "Wow, that's how it is now." Stephanie leaned in, her smile tight. "Maybe if you stopped acting like a jealous little girl, you'd realize the world doesn't revolve around you." I pushed my chair back. I felt hot, humiliated. I looked at my dad one more time, hoping, praying, for a shred of the man who used to tuck me in with bedtime stories and hot cocoa. Nothing. I should go. Stephanie raised her glass. "Good idea." As I walked to the door, I heard something. A laugh. Soft but unmistakable. My dad. He was laughing. Not loudly, not cruelly, but enough. And I don't know why, but that laugh broke me more than any of the words had. It said, "You're not important anymore." It said, "I've chosen my side." It said, "This is the new normal." I sat in my car for a long time that night, not crying, just staring. I kept playing everything over in my head, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. Was I too sensitive, too attached, or did he just move on that easily? All I could think was, this man raised me. I was his world. Once, how do you just forget that? For days, I didn't call, neither did he. Eventually a text came through. From Stephanie, not him. It said, "Let's take a break from visits until things calm down. Hope you understand." Hope you understand. I didn't. Not then. Maybe I never fully will. But something changed in me that night. I stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. I stopped begging for a seat at a table where I clearly wasn't wanted. And most importantly, I stopped speaking, not out of weakness, out of power. Because sometimes silence says more than screaming ever could, and if that's the game they wanted to play, they had no idea who they were playing with. It's strange how quickly a place can stop feeling like home. One day, you're walking barefoot down the hallway in your dad's hoodie, grabbing cereal straight from the box like you've done 1,000 times. The next, you're being treated like a guest who overstayed their welcome. After that dinner, I didn't hear from my dad for almost 3 weeks. No texts, no calls, no check-ins, just silence. The kind that makes you question everything. The kind that makes you wonder if you imagined the love in the first place. I finally caved and called him, not to apologize, just to talk, to understand. He picked up after a few rings. His voice was flat. "Oh hey, everything okay?" I almost laughed. Everything okay? I hadn't heard from him in weeks and that was his opener. I just wanted to know if we're okay. You haven't reached out. I didn't want things to stay weird, he sighed. You kind of made them weird, don't you think? That hit hard. I said, Dad, I was just honest. That night, ... You really hurt me. I just expected you to care. Then came the worst part. Not what he said, but how he said it. You're grown now. You've got to stop acting like everything's about you. I have a life, a wife, responsibilities. I can't keep catering to your feelings, catering to my feelings. Like I was some spoiled kid throwing tantrums. Like I hadn't stood by him after Mum died, cooked dinner when he couldn't get out of bed, held his hand during court dates when we almost lost the house. But yeah, ... Apparently now I was just too much. That conversation didn't end with a fight, it ended with indifference. He said, we'll talk soon, and hung up. We didn't talk soon. Instead, a few days later I got an email, not a message, not a call, an email, from Stephanie. It was titled, Rental Update. She wrote, Hi, since you're no longer living here full-time and contributing financially, your dad and I have decided it's best to repurpose your old room. You'll have until the end of the month to collect any remaining items. After that, we'll assume anything left behind is unwanted. She called it a rental. My childhood bedroom. My safe place. Suddenly it was just space she needed for a home office / meditation room. I forwarded the email to my dad. I wrote one line. This really how you want to do this? He didn't respond, so I went. I drove to the house 2 days later. No warning, just showed up. Stephanie opened the door again. Oh, thought you might come. He's not home. I walked past her. She didn't stop me. Didn't offer help either. Just stood there, sipping her green juice like this was all completely normal. I opened the door to my old room and stopped. Everything was in boxes. Every photo, every notebook, every piece of me shoved into cheap cardboard. Like leftovers from a garage sale, there was a folded note on the bed. From him, sorry it had to be this way. Hope you understand. That again. Hope you understand. No, didn't. I sat on the edge of that bed, surrounded by my own memories boxed up by strangers, and I finally cried. Not soft, pretty tears. The kind that come from your gut, where you feel like you're choking on grief you didn't even know was still there. I wasn't just losing a room. I was losing the last part of my life that felt like it belonged to me. My dad used to call me his little soldier. Said I was strong. Said I was his whole world. Now I was just an inconvenience. I packed my car with what I could fit, mostly clothes, some books, a few framed photos he hadn't tossed yet. As I was leaving, Stephanie called out behind me, I hope this doesn't ruin our chances of rebuilding one day. I didn't say anything. I didn't trust my voice not to crack again, but in my head, I thought, what are we rebuilding? There's no foundation left. You burned it. NT let you. That night I slept on my friend's couch. She offered her guest room, but I didn't want a bed. I wanted numbness. I wanted to feel nothing for a while. The hardest part wasn't that my dad chose her. It was that he didn't even try to keep me. He didn't fight. He didn't ask me to stay. He didn't remind me that I mattered. That's what broke me. But here's the thing, no one tells you about being broken. You get to decide what you do with the pieces. And while they thought I was fading into silence, ... I was paying attention. Every look, every word, every decision, I stayed silent because I knew what was coming. They just didn't know ... That silence was never surrender, it was the beginning. Life has a strange way of balancing things out. Sometimes quietly, sometimes slowly, but always in its own time. After I moved out, I didn't speak to my dad again. Weeks passed, then months, and it got easier. Not because I stopped caring, but because I stopped expecting anything from him. The silence became less heavy. Like I finally understood the rules of the game. He made his choice. I accepted it. But there was one thing they didn't know. One tiny detail they overlooked in there. Rushed to erase me when my mom died. I was 18. And she left behind more than just memories and furniture and old family photos. She left behind a small investment portfolio. Nothing huge. Just a few modest accounts she'd managed quietly over the years. She always told me, this is for you, in case something happens to me. Don't tell your dad unless you really have to. At the time, I didn't understand why she said that, but now, it made perfect sense. I never touched the money, not even when things were tight. Not when tuition got scary or when my car broke down or even when I had to crash on my friend's couch. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about what it meant was something that was truly mine. What they also didn't know was that 2 years before my dad met Stephanie, he added me as a joint administrator on the family trust account. The one that held our house, our lake property, and a few small stocks. It was his idea, actually. He said, in case anything ever happens to me, you'll be able to keep things running. After the wedding, I assumed he had changed it, probably removed me completely. But curiosity got the better of me one day, and I logged in. He hadn't. Either he forgot, or he just assumed I'd never touch it. And trust me, I didn't plan to, not to take anything. Not to sabotage anything, but it meant I could still see what they were doing, so I watched. Quietly. Every transfer, every document, every change in ownership. I saw when Stephanie convinced him to refinance the house under her name. I saw when she used part of the trust to fund her business, some luxury candle brand that looked like a knockoff from Etsy. And then I saw something that stopped me cold. They put the lake house up for sale, the same house my mom had spent years fighting to keep when things got bad. The listing was live, glossy photos, glowing descriptions, charming lakeside getaway with vintage charm and modern upgrades. They didn't even mention our family's history with the place. It was just a product now. I didn't cry this time. I didn't get angry either. I got focused because there was one clause in the trust my dad never changed, a buyout clause basically. Any family beneficiary may had the right to match a purchase offer if the property was listed, as long as I had the funds. Guess what? I did buy. My mum made sure of it. I ran the numbers, called a lawyer, submitted the paperwork, and just like that, 2 days before the buyers were set to close, the realtor called them with news: the seller's daughter has matched the offer. Legally, she gets priority. They were blindsided. Stephanie tried to block it, of course, called it a betrayal, said I was being petty. I didn't respond. My dad finally emailed me. Not even a call, just a short, stiff email. I didn't know. You still had access that was meant to change. That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just that. I replied with one sentence. Then maybe you should have paid more attention. I didn't buy the house to live in it. I didn't need to. I just didn't want them turning it into something it wasn't. That house was sacred. Not a project, not a transaction. It was the last place I remembered feeling like I was still part of a family, so I let it sit empty, quiet, untouched, just as it was meant to be. Word got around, of course. Extended families started calling, whispering. Some took sides, others said nothing, but I didn't care about any of that because for the first time in years I felt like I had something they couldn't take from me, something they didn't even realize mattered, until it was gone. Best part, I never raised my voice. I didn't slam doors or start fights or burn bridges. I just waited. Watched. And when the time came, I moved in silence, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let people believe they've won right before they realize the board was never theirs to begin with. A few months after I reclaimed the lake house, things got quiet, too quiet. Almost no emails, no texts, no more surprise paperwork, just silence. The kind that comes when people don't know whether to confront you or pretend you don't exist. Honestly, I was fine with that. Then came the invitation, a white envelope, hand-delivered to my old apartment address like a ghost from a life that wasn't mine anymore. Inside was a card, thick and glossy, printed in gold cursive. You're cordially invited to celebrate the launch of Lumiere Living a Lifestyle, brand by Stephanie and Richard. My dad's name printed under hers like an accessory, a footnote. I stared at it for a long time. No dear. No, we hope you'll come. Just a time, a place, and a smiley photo of the two of them standing in front of a remodeled house I barely recognized. It was their house now, not ours. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Then I realized no, this was deliberate. It wasn't an olive branch. It was a performance, a move to show how mature they were. Look how evolved we are, inviting the estranged daughter who caused such drama. Look how gracious. But I didn't RSVP. I didn't even respond. And still, the week of the event, I started getting texts. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey, are you coming Saturday? I heard it's gonna be fancy. An old neighbor. Did you see your dad's post? Big party, big reveal. Sounds important. I didn't reply to any of them, but I watched. I kept my eyes on everything: event listings, photos on Stephanie's business page, behind-the-scenes clips they posted on Instagram stories. They were hyping it up like it was the Oscars. It was being held at a rented villa just outside the city. Candle walls, catered sushi, valet parking, signature cocktails named after fake French phrases. Typical. And there, in the middle of it all, was the big reveal: their lifestyle brand, Lumiere Living, a line of hand-poured candles, intentional decor pieces, overpriced incense, and mood boards that all looked copied and pasted from someone else's Pinterest. I watched all of this unfold online, watched as they posted videos of the event, as people clapped, as Stephanie smiled with that polished, rehearsed confidence she wore like a crown. And I smiled too, because what nobody knew, what they didn't know, was that 2 weeks earlier I'd quietly filed a legal motion, not to sue, not to cause drama, just to correct something. You see, Lumiere Living wasn't just Stephanie's brand. The entire business had been registered under a joint LLC funded partially through the family trust, the same trust I still had oversight on, and there was a clause: any venture funded by the trust required full beneficiary approval, mine, which they never asked for. The morning of the event, my lawyer filed a temporary injunction effective immediately. The brand's official launch, due to unauthorized use of family assets. It wasn't personal, it was just legal, but it hit like a bomb as guests clinked champagne glasses and posted selfies with branded candles. Servers started whispering. One of the caterers was pulled aside. Then the DJ's music cut out. Mid-track, someone rushed across the back patio with a phone pressed to their ear, face pale. Stephanie was smiling one moment, posing next to a wall of flowers, and then she was gone. Dragged inside by someone in a headset. Within half an hour, the party started thinning out. Confusion, questions, no one really knew what happened, but I did. I didn't have to be there. I didn't have to raise my voice or make a scene. My presence wasn't needed to make an impact, and maybe that's what made it hit even harder. Later that night, my dad finally called me. Not a text, not an email, an actual phone call. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. His voice was low. Not angry, not even upset, just ... tired. "I guess you got our invitation," I said. "Yeah, I got it." Pause. "Then you didn't have to do that. You could have warned us." I almost laughed. "You didn't warn me when you boxed up my life in cardboard. You didn't warn me when you erased Mom's name from everything. Why should I warn you when you ignore the rules you created?" He didn't respond. After a while, he said, "This isn't what I wanted." I answered, "Then maybe you should have fought harder for what you did want." There was silence on the other end. I didn't need to hear more. I ended the call. I didn't cry. I didn't gloat. I just sat with it. For once, the weight wasn't on my chest. It was on his. Because no matter how beautiful the party, how perfect the branding, how curated the smiles, the truth finds a way to show up, even if it arrives in silence. Even if it's sitting in a chair that nobody notices, is empty until it's far too late. It's been almost 4 years now. 4 years since that dinner. 4 years since the invitation. 4 years since the phone call that ended with more silence. I never went back. Not to the house. Not to the holidays. Not to him. And it's not that I held a grudge. I just stopped chasing people who treated me like I was optional. Life moved on. I found my own place, finished school, started working, quietly, steadily, on my own terms. I didn't post about it, didn't try to prove anything. I just lived. Sometimes I'd pass the lake house when I needed clarity. I never went inside. I just sat in my car, looking at it from the road, watching the water move like it always had, untouched, steady. Something about that felt comforting. Like some things, if you protect them long enough, stay honest, and I'd hear about them every now and then, mostly through whispers, a cousin here, a neighbor there, little updates no one knew they were giving me. The candle brand, it flopped. Hard. Turns out selling $80 candles named after French verbs isn't sustainable when your customer base is made up of your bridge club and your hairdresser. They over-ordered inventory, tried to crowdfund a second line. It failed. Quietly. No announcements. Just a website that stopped updating and social posts that slowly vanished. I heard Stephanie tried pivoting to coaching, mindful living or something. I guess once the product stopped selling, she tried selling herself and my dad. He faded, not dramatically, not in some big downfall, just ... faded. The man who once told me bedtime stories and built snowmen in the yard became a figure in the background of someone else's life. I heard he started golfing more, retired earlier than he planned, talked less, laughed less. One day I got a call from my aunt. My dad had a health scare, mild stroke, nothing fatal, but it slowed him down. She said he wasn't the same after that. "He talks about you sometimes," she said. Not out loud, but I can tell. He looks at old photos like he's waiting for them to speak. I didn't say much. I just thanked her for the call. Because what was I supposed to do with that? I never wanted to see him ruined. I just wanted to stop being the one who got hurt. Time passed, more silence. And then one day I got a letter, not an email, not a text, a handwritten letter from him. The handwriting was shakier than I remembered. He wrote, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I remember. I remember your voice in the hallway. I remember the way you made me laugh when I forgot how. I remember how fiercely you loved your mother and how much she would have hated the way I treated you. You didn't to destroy anything. I did. And every day I sit in the quiet and realize how loud it would be if you were still here. You didn't speak, but your silence said everything. I hope one day I can say the rest in person, Dad." I read it 3 times, folded it, put it in a drawer, and I let myself feel everything at once. Anger, sadness, nostalgia, and something else I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, because I wasn't waiting anymore. I didn't need his validation. I didn't need him to say sorry. He already had, in the only way he knew how. And no, I didn't call him. I didn't rush to fix what was broken, because some things stay broken. And sometimes that's okay. But I did drive out to the lake again, one last time. I sat there for hours, watching the water, thinking about everything we were and everything we weren't. And before I left something behind, a framed photo of me, my mom, and my dad back when we were whole. I placed it behind the curtain in the front room window, just far enough in that no one on the street would see it. But if he ever came back, if he ever looked, it'd be there, not as a reminder of pain, but of what was possible before it all got lost. I didn't burn bridges. I just stopped walking toward the ones that never had room for me. And in the end, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to destroy anyone. They did that on their own. All I did was stay quiet, and sometimes that's louder than anything.